That was lovely. Thank you, Kavi May. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. I know you're probably thinking, I'm only here for meditation. But that was lovely. Yeah. So, I'll be on stage. So if anyone would like to pay respect to our Lord Buddha by bowing 3 times, please follow me. Bow, bow, and bow. If anyone would like to pay respect to our teaching monk by bowing 3 times, bow, bow, and bow. Satu. So, for someone who's been here for the first time, our teaching monk is Venerable Nicholas Thanissaro. Venerable Thanissaro is a Buddhist monk of 24 years standing with 30 years of meditation experience. He is a UK Complementary Medication Association qualified teacher of meditation. Affiliated with the Dhammakaya Foundation, he is also qualified as a school teacher and MBTI practitioner. As a scholar practitioner, during his time as Associate Fellow at the University of Warwick, he published widely in peer-reviewed journals on the formation of Buddhist identity in teenagers and continues to research the appeal of meditation in the West. He currently lectures in Living Buddhism and Religious Individualization at Clements School of Theology, California and Willamette University, Oregon. So now to Luang Pi Chaka.
So, good evening, everyone, both here in person in Surrey, England, and also for those of you who are joining us online from different places around Europe for our Dhammakaya Meditation Europe Saturday activity. Thank you very much, Natalie, for a glowing introduction, and also May for the soothing exercise session. Hope that everyone is feeling more relaxed and comfortable now, which will be ideal for our meditation. For those of you who are new to meditation today, in a few moments we're going to be meditating for about 45 minutes. But before I do that, maybe it's worth just going back over the basics of meditation for those of you who may be unfamiliar with the meditation technique. Meditation works with a part of ourselves that is often neglected. It's often held a ransom by all the busy things happening in our lives to the point that we have very little control over it. And that thing is known as the mind, although possibly a less confusing way of referring to it is our focus of attention or our awareness. It's something which belongs within the space of our body, but for most of the day it is pulled away from us to the things around us by all the things demanding our attention. And there's nothing wrong with being attentive. There's nothing wrong with taking notice of what is happening around you. But at the end of the day, often we can feel drained by how much energy it takes out of us to be attentive to things around us all day long. Worse than that, people who have a lot of responsibilities in life are sometimes put in a position where they end up knowing more about the things around them than they know about themselves, simply because their awareness and their attention is constantly stuck on the things around them instead of having any me time for the attention to come back within the space of the body, where it would ideally be settled if body and mind were able to come into some sort of balance. Meditation is a way to restore that sense of balance, and if the awareness or the mind can be relocated from the things around us back within us to the space of the body, then there is a special place inside us where, for as long as the mind is balanced in that place, then it can recharge the energy of the mind. And this place is known as the center of the body. Little spot that you can see flashing there. Your one doesn't have to flash like that, I should add. But this place at the solar plexus or at the center of the diaphragm is particularly important because not only is it the center of gravity for our physical body, but it's also a place where if the mind can relocate to that point, then it's very easy for the mind to become recharged with all the energy it needs, or all the energy that has become depleted by attending to the things around us. So how exactly would we relocate the mind? The mind is not obviously something which we can pick up and physically handle in the way we do with normal objects, because normally it's invisible to us. Normally it is not something we can even detect by physical means. You can't go to your doctor and have an x-ray of it. You can't even find it on an MRI scan. So the way to work with the mind is by using something within the mind that we can handle a little bit more easily. And what I'm going to suggest for you to try today is to work with some sort of imagery in the mind, which you conjure up in your imagination as a way to get a handle on your mind. The sort of picture which would be very useful for you is something like a bright, shining sun, if you would like to think of a picture like that. Yeah? Or as it's a full moon night, maybe you would like to think of a full moon, or a star, or a diamond, or even something like the crystal ball that you can see behind me. Today, as we're working with candle lanterns and rafts, you might even like to think of a candle flame. But all of those objects, they are produced by your imagination. You're not actually seeing them, although you might remember ones that you've seen in the past. And what you do in the course of the meditation would be to bring a picture like that to this point at the very center of yourself. You don't need to be too finicky about exactly where, but anywhere that feels comfortable for you on the inside, in that general area, will eventually lead to the mind gravitating slowly to a place inside. Yeah? And that is a way of restoring balance to body and mind. Generally, we don't just jump straight in and do this sort of focusing activity, but there are some preliminaries for meditation, which include usually making sure our body is fully relaxed. So already our little exercise just now will help us in that general direction, but we generally make a check down through the whole of our body to make sure every muscle is relaxed, what's known as a body scan. Also, we pay attention to our meditation posture. So normally we try to sit up fairly straight, and the way we put our hands together is with the right hand on top of the left hand, index finger of the right hand up against the thumb of the left hand, and our hands just rest palm upwards in our lap. If you ever get sleepy, then the idea is that your finger will slip out of place, and that will give you a little bit of a warning before the rest of you slips out of position or off the chair. After that, we try to put our mind in a positive state. So we try to put aside any of the worries that come immediately to mind, and also put our mind in a positive frame of, or a positive mood. And only then do we do this exercise with conjuring up an image and bringing it gently down to the center of our body. If you have thoughts in the mind, that might put you off your focus. And the way to deal with thoughts is to try to ignore them as far as possible. But if you do notice that your thoughts are not responding to ignoring them, then you might make use of this traditional mantra, the words Samma Arahang, hearing those words as if they come up from the center of your body or the bright object inside you. And I will add that for some people, it's more of a feeling that that object is present inside you rather than a picture. And that works perfectly well. So if you find it's more of a feeling than a picture that you're working with, then that's just fine. Go with whatever works well for you. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a elaborate meditation, and it's called a meditation on the inner elements. And part of the idea of today's meditation is that part of the letting go, which is always useful in life, is letting go of our physical component of our own body. And there's a traditional meditation called meditation on the four elements. And within our own tradition, we have this picture of the four elements actually located around the center of the body, where the center one is actually the center of the body I was talking about just now. And to translate that from Cambodian language into English, you get something like this. The four great elements, air, water, fire, and air. It's said that in their subtle form, they are located around the center of your body, with space at the very center, which is what we're dealing with the center of the body. And then at the very center of that, there is a tiny point of knowing or knowledge. And it's only by letting go of those four outer elements and moving towards firstly the space and then the inner knowledge that we can help the mind to go deeper. So if you're new to meditation today, don't worry if I sort of go into a lot of details and stuff. Try to go with what I just mentioned just now, 5 minutes, relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, bringing the mind to the center, trying to keep that inner object at your center while dispersing the thoughts. But I will go into this slightly more elaborate meditation on the inner elements today as a special innovation for you to learn about letting go of the physical component of our own body. Yes. So far so good. Are you sitting comfortably? So we'll make a start with our meditation today. We're able to relax ourselves. It's like permitting our whole body to be still and permitting every single part of our body not to be doing anything anymore. Just remaining in stillness. Also, we relax our state of mind, putting aside any worries or concerns, conjuring up a sense of happiness and joy inside us. The meditation on the inner elements that we will be doing today is what's known as a Samata or calming meditation. But as it's the very last meditation in the list of the 40 ways of meditating in the Path of Purity Manual of Meditation, it has rather more details to it than some of the other meditation that we might be used to. But it's like a reflection on the assumption that you are your body, or your body is you. And we're going to probe a little at those assumptions and start to see how much of what we take to be us is not in fact who we really are. The object of meditation on the inner elements is to contemplate the elements of earth, water, fire, and wind in the body. To free the mind from attachment to self. Me, myself, mine. in the Buddhist scriptures of the Majjhima Nikaya, whether it be the greater discourse on the elephant's footprint, the greater discourse of advice to Rahula, or the analysis of the elements. It's advocated that we mentally deconstruct the body into the four elements as a way to reduce our attachment to the physical aspect of our existence, and to understand clearly the fundamental nature of the body, without thinking about the differences between individuals. It's generally a meditation suited to people with a tendency to overthink things. So to start to let go of the attachment to this body, we consider it in terms of the four great elements, or Jattaro Mahabhutani, namely earth, water, fire and air. We reflect on these four elements as they appear in the body, until they're seen as just a bunch of elements no different in nature from the elements in inanimate objects outside of ourselves. Traditionally, there were 42 signs of the elements in the body, 20 for the earth element, especially Gesa, Loma, Nakatanta, Tacho, of the formulaic meditation given to each new monk on the day of their ordination. We continue with 12 for the water element, 4 for the fire element, and 6 for the air element. But today we'll do it in a more informal manner, just enough to let go of attachment to this body of ours, so that we can meditate more deeply. So we begin by becoming aware of what's known as the earth element internally, the earth element in the body. And what this is everything solid and resistant in the body. We can start to notice the more immediate sensations of solidity and contact, noticing things like perhaps the feet in contact with the floor or your seat, your hands resting on your lap, or any other experiences of solid contact. You can feel your tongue in contact with your teeth, generally noticing the solidarity, the solidity of the body. You can notice the muscles all over the body, legs, arms, trunk and neck, all over the face and head. You can notice your teeth, finger and toenails. And there are also the organs that you can't sense directly, that are also the earth element, like the brain, the lungs, the heart, the liver and the kidneys. So we just give ourselves a sense that, yes, okay, there's this body here, it's solid. This is what I think of as being me. And then moving on within the earth element, we become aware of the earth element outside of ourselves. In fact, the earth element inside the body is no different in nature from the earth element in inanimate objects outside of ourselves. And all of it is borrowed. You didn't make any of the matter in your body. And furthermore, it's of a nature of suffering, impermanence, and it is not our true self. So as you're aware now of this solid mass, the mass of this body that you take to be me, mine, just observe the body and drop those phrases in that this is not me, this is not mine, I am not this. Next, we move on to the water element. The water element is whatever liquid or semi-liquid is inside our body. This is the water element internally. So you can notice some of this directly, the saliva in our mouth, the film of tears covering the surface of our eyes. You might feel moistness where parts of your body are in contact with one another. And you can feel the blood pulsing through your body. There are other forms of liquid in the body that we can't directly sense, but we know they're there. Things like bile, lymph fluid, synovial fluid, digestive juices. You can just be aware that this entire body is saturated in water, maybe 60 to 65% liquid. Even fat, by the way, is considered traditionally being a part of the water element. In fact, the water element inside the body is no different in nature from the water element in inanimate objects outside of ourselves. It's of a nature of suffering, impermanence, and it's not our true self. So we become aware of the nature of the water element inside our body just by dropping in the phrases, "This is not me, this is not mine, I am not this." And the next element is the fire element. And the fire element is how the ancients referred to the functioning of the metabolism, life, the activity of living beings. It maintains digestion and movement and everything associated with being alive. Everything associated with being alive. So you can be aware of the warmth in your body. Notice that the body is warm. You may feel some coolness in the air around you, and that's just the feeling of heat escaping from your body. The out-breath is warm compared to the cooler in-breath. And you can notice the heart beating. That's energy. Notice the body moving as you breathe in and you breathe out. You might be aware of the digestive processes, and you can feel the pulse in different parts of the body, perhaps in your hands, in your legs, or in your feet. And there's just that aliveness, the fact that you're sensing energy flowing through sensory nerves, bringing signals to your brain. The brain sending out little signals to motor neurons, to muscles all over your body. And we just have this feeling of aliveness, and this is the fire element internally. And again, if you start to look at it closely, there is no internal versus external fire element. In fact, the fire element inside the body is no different in nature from the fire element in inanimate objects outside of ourselves. It's of the nature of suffering, impermanence. It's not our true self. So we become aware, just being aware of this pulsing, tingling, breathing, energetic body by dropping in the phrases, "This is not me, this is not mine, I am not this." Moving on, the next of the inner elements is the air element, which is what it sounds like. It's the gaseous components of the body, breath that dissolves in the bloodstream. You become aware of this body is saturated with dissolved gases, gases filling the lungs and the airways. In fact, the air element inside the body is no different in nature from the air element in inanimate objects outside of ourselves. It is all of a nature of suffering, impermanence, and it's not our true self. We become aware of the nature of the air element in our body just by dropping in the phrases, "This is not me, this is not mine, I am not this." And having let go of the attachment for the body, we have to accept before proceeding that the traditional way of cultivating meditation on the four elements, or Jatu Dhatu Vatana, is limited in its potential and can only get you as far as neighborhood concentration or Upajjara Samadhi. It doesn't have the power to access attainment concentration or Appana Samadhi. In order to gain access to higher meditational attainments, including attainment of the Dhammakaya, we need to follow the advice of the great abbot of Wat Phak Nam by reflecting on the four elements at the center of the body until the mind comes to a standstill and can attain the sphere of Patamamaka. This development of the elemental meditation requires 6 elements in place of 4. And having reduced attachments to our ego, it can help our mind more easily to make its way towards inner peace. The great abbot of Wat Phak Nam, Pramongkol Tepuni, interpreted these 4 great elements as refined elements perceived as elemental spheres within the body. Not 4 because they are inanimate, but 6 elements for living conscious matter. We consider the 6 elements inside ourselves through meditation as inner spheres. And the way they're located in relation to the center of the body. The great abbot of Wat Phak Nam taught that near to the center of the body there are 6 centers: to the front, to the back, to the left, to the right, around the center and the center itself. Where the center to the front is that of the cohesive or fluid element, the water element. To the right is the solid element or the earth element. The center behind the center of the body is the combustible element or fire element. The center to the left of the body is of the nature of mobility and is the air or wind element. The center surrounding but concentric to the center of the body is the vacuous element or the element of space. And lastly, at the center of the space element is the human mind, which has been described as the element of consciousness. This human element of consciousness comprises the 4 functions of perception, memory, thought, and cognition. So to upgrade meditation on the elements to attainment level of Appana Samadhi, when considering the 4 elements present in the body, we need for our reflection on the elements to lead the mind to become calm and concentrated to a point where it is still at the center of the body. Without bringing the mind to the center, to the point of attainment of Patamamaka, until attaining the inner bodies, the quality of meditation cannot move from neighborhood concentration up to the level of access concentration, let alone insight meditation. So for this reason, we just keep calm at the center, and with this in mind, we consider the remaining 2 elements at the center of the body. So we turn our attention to the 5th of the elements, the element of space inside the body. We might think of this as the space that we occupy, so just becoming aware as best we can of the space we occupy. Maybe kind of fuzzy, sort of strange. When we look at the body, we see defined edges. When you feel the body from the inside, it's hard to tell where your body ends and the outside world begins. So you're occupying this space, this me-shaped space. And as with all the other elements, we can be aware of all the space that's outside this me-shaped space. It's a little overwhelming perhaps, because there's a lot of it. So you go to your center and the feeling there. As you're sitting, being aware of this inner space that you call me, mine, and the sensations arising within that inner space, reflect that the space element inside the body is no different in nature from the space element in inanimate objects outside of yourself. So the nature of suffering, impermanence, and it's not our true self. So we become aware of the space element in our body by just dropping in the phrases at our center: this is not me, this is not mine, I am not this. And then finally we become aware of the consciousness element. So consciousness is not a thing, it's a process of knowing, of experiencing. In fact, the consciousness element inside the body is no different in nature from the consciousness element in other animate objects outside of ourselves. So the nature of suffering, impermanence, and it's not our true self. So we become aware of the nature of the consciousness element in our body by just dropping in the phrases: this is not me, this is not mine, I am not this. But although consciousness is just a mundane life-giving element, it does present a pathway to higher aspects of ourselves that are of a nature of happiness, eternity, and our true self, something we can truly consider our own. So having aligned our mind with the inner subtle space of consciousness at the center of the body, the mind will know exactly where to go. Sometimes we don't even have to use the breath. At this point, we slowly and gently conjure up a point of reference in the mind by touching very gently with our mind at the center, until a picture of the midday sun or the full moon, a star, a diamond, or perhaps a crystal ball or a candle flame appears. We continue to observe that imaginary object as a ball of bright light. The inner object will mark the center spot. We observe the inner object, accepting the way it comes into view, even if it's not entirely clear. There's no point in putting up a struggle to get the inner image the way we want. The point is to observe and accept the inner object, anchoring the mind as it is. And for now, the mind continues to stay gently in touch with the bright inner object at the center of ourselves. As the mind becomes more settled, the brightness of the inner object will expand to become wider. Meanwhile, the mind remains still at the same spot. We continue in this way for a few more moments in silence, little by little, until we come to the appropriate time. So we continue to allow the brightness of our inner object to spread outwards in all directions, spreading above and below, to the front and the back, to the right and the left, purifying and clarifying all the subtle elements in our body and mind. In the meantime, our point of observation is not from a place outside the center, but actually from inside the center, as if we were radiating our awareness outwards with an inner brightness. Generally, we only feel things touching us from the outside. But in our meditation today, we have the novel experience of feeling sensation as if from the inside out. The mind continues to align itself exactly with the center space inside the abdomen. It will slowly align itself with that point inside us like a tiny sail making its way across the ocean to the far shore, slowly, softly, quietly, making its way to the center space. In the same way, our mind is touching at the center in a very soft, subtle manner. If you think about the amount of effort involved with touching, you realize it's far lighter than putting or placing something. It doesn't involve taking the weight of that object. The way the mind approaches the center is more like touching than putting or placing. It needs to be delicate, like a tiny white feather floating gently to the earth. In the same way, the mind floats down to touch at the center space, and we observe it there as it continues to touch the center. All we need to do for now is to wait. The inner element of consciousness at the center, in addition to the peace energy, will take care of the mind. The only way to reach toward a healthy mind, a mind that has cleansed and purified all the inner elements, is to allow the mind to come to a standstill at the tiny point of consciousness and wait for the energy to cleanse the inner elements. In the meantime, we stay still, we wait. We don't have to do anything. All we do is wait. Since the body is motionless, little by little, we begin to relax. We remain in the moment while the peace energy takes care of our precious mind. No one is in a hurry. We just let the mind slow down in its own time. And while we're waiting, we try to keep it simple. Whatever experience arises, we observe and accept. Observing means we're fully aware of any experience. Accepting means that we don't elaborate on the experience. We accept whatever arises with an uncomplicated mind. This is the secret of waiting, to observe and to accept. So for now, let us observe and accept our inner experience for a little longer, with a sense of having all the time in the world, as we gently coax the mind toward a standstill. By means of waiting, the mind becomes even more settled than before. The mind starts to feel less cluttered and less congested. The peace energy gradually works to purify and clarify the elements in the mind, In fact, we cannot intentionally declutter our mind. We have to allow it to take place by itself. All we can do is to set up the conditions and let them run to completion. As the peace energy flows into our mind and gradually accumulates, there will be a feeling of expansion, and the body will start to feel lighter. If anything new happens in the mind, we just let it be. If our attention is drawn away to things outside our center, we will only be able to observe them in a single dimension. If we keep our awareness in the center and allow the awareness to broaden and expand from there, we can observe our surroundings in all dimensions at once. The benefits of cultivating meditation on the inner elements, as we've done today, include that we will appreciate the three universal characteristics of impermanence, suffering, and not-self. You'll be able to let go of attachment to the fixed aspects of our physical identity, such as gender or species. We'll be able to overcome our fear of danger, especially from predators higher up the food chain, paving the way for our attainment of enlightenment. We'll be able to let go of attachment to tasks in our life and to sensual obsessions. We won't be carried away by extreme emotions and moods. We'll be endowed with extensive intelligence and will be able to attain inner peace. But in the meantime, we will arise only in the human and celestial realms. But in the meantime, we need to learn to be at ease with our elements. We need to learn only to observe and to accept. We need to reduce the tendency of our mind to question everything. Every time we find we're entertaining a question in the mind, it only causes a loss of quality in the mind. So it's better just to let the questions go. Keep the mind simple, in touch with the peace energy at the center, to develop a new feeling, a new level of consciousness, allowing peace energy to radiate forth from the center for a few more moments in silence. Sapa Buddhanupavena, Sapa Dhammanupavena, Sapa Sanghanupavena Satha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to slowly come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position before gradually finishing your practice. So far, so good, everyone. The new people okay with that? Did you have a little bit of a moonrise at the center of your body? Or a feeling of something like that? Well, I hope so. If you haven't already got enough light and illumination, then we will add to it a little bit later in the evening, one way or another. But today, here in Woking, and also for those joining us from different places in Europe today, we are joining to meditate on the full moon day, full moon of November. And although we are blessed with cloudy skies here in Europe, apparently the full moon this month is particularly spectacular. Sometimes it's a moon that's known as the morning moon, or the reed moon, or the frost moon. And it's a reference to the weather getting colder during this month. Sometimes it's known as the beaver moon, probably not by anyone around here, I would have thought, but certainly Algonquin Native American tribes named each full moon based on the weather conditions, farming routines and hunting trends each time of the year, and this is a reference to the beavers, who are busily building their wintry dams in preparation for the cold winter. So it turns out that this moon this year is special because there is a partial eclipse of the moon, which turns it into a blood moon, in case you can actually see it. And it gives it a sort of rusty orange appearance, or similar to what happens at the height of the total eclipse, glowing red and significantly less bright than you'd normally expect a full moon to be. And that being said, the stars will be shining bright as if there were no moon at all at the peak of that eclipse. And apparently this is the longest lunar eclipse that has happened in the last 580 years. So if you didn't see it tonight, then you have to wait until 2669. So, yes, good luck to you. Every year, the full moon night of November has special significance, especially in India. And the river Ganges, you've heard of that? Ganges? Especially in Benares or Varanasi, is lit up with thousands of floating candles. And what you can see there is the steps down to the river, which are called ghats. And during this time of the year, there are special little candle lanterns which float on the water. I think they're usually made out of clay in India. They're called diyas. And it's a celebration within the Hindu tradition, something that's known as Dev Deepawali, because the Deepa is the lantern. And it's decked out with lights, and devotees all float the little candles down the river. And it's believed that there's lots of deities and so on, like they do in India, that come down to see the little lights. But the main thing to do with this whole festival is the respect for the water courses and water the value of water in the river, because it's a time when the river is at its height. Even in Thailand, then there's usually flooding. This is like part of the seasons. This is why you build your house on stilts, because you've known about climate change for a long time already. But yes, it's a celebration, and you will see this signs very similar in India to what you might find in our tradition, in the Thai tradition. Floating of the candle lanterns there. There are certain problems with what happens to all the little rafts afterwards, which concerns people in the modern day and age, of course. But yes, this tradition, sometimes Thai people adopt traditions from different parts of the world, especially if it's nice ones. And I've said in certain other places that sometimes Thai people have any excuse for a festival. Most people have New Year once, but Thais have New Year about 4 times. So they got like a Western New Year, a Chinese New Year, a Thai New Year is in April. And then you can count this as basically Indian New Year. So they have this one too, and it's actually called Loi Krathong. And it's been sort of upgraded slightly to include these sort of very beautiful constructions like candle rafts. Not so much with the little clayware crockery ones, but made out of banana leaves. And one of our supporters went to the trouble of basically sewing together banana leaves in order to make these traditional krathong. You can imagine how much patience that takes. Sewing flower petals together, yeah, you need to have quite a delicate hand for that. Unfortunately, our fish may not be too happy with banana leaves and staples and thread and stuff like that. So most of the ones that we're going to use today are the actual slightly more hygienic version, which can be rescued afterwards and don't sink to the bottom. Yes. In Thailand, the festival is particularly celebrated in the north of Thailand. And they have what are known also as sky lanterns. Apart from setting forests on fire and disturbing air traffic control, they're very beautiful. But it's not something we can really do here without probably treading on a lot of toes. But they're almost like the Chinese lanterns, that they float under their own hot air. So, Loi Krathong Festival, it's the 12th lunar month, if you count it like 28 days. And the tide is high, there's floods. It's also a time where the water is needed for the harvest of rice. And the letting go of the candle lanterns into the sky. Sometimes it's almost like setting free the memory of loved ones. Sometimes it's very moving, seeing those candle flames disappearing into, as far as the eye can see, into the sky. Quite moving. The water version of that, with these sort of krathong, is also being sort of adopted, especially in Thai and Buddhist tradition, where people use the opportunity of taking something of possibly great beauty and then floating it away on the floodwaters as a way of bringing to mind all the things they would like to let go of, maybe things that they would like to move past in their lives, and seeing it disappear in a beautiful way into the distance. This is sometimes something which is particularly effective, especially if you like to turn the corner on something in your own life. So it's a symbolic letting go. The way these are floated away is something like this. People usually make a wish on all the things that they would like to let go of before they place it gently in the water to float away. Yes. Letting go of things is generally a good thing, but not everything. Some things you should hang on to too, right? So generally the things you would want to let go of are things that are somehow burdening you. So don't just let go of everything. Like, ambitions for good things are good, helpful, inspiring, motivating. All those are still good. But the things which are maybe holding you back, like maybe anger or grief, those would be things to really let go of at this sort of opportunity. As for the idea of respecting the water and the water elements, well, this is so much more relevant today. We are ourselves composed largely of water, as we heard from the meditation on the water element. 60 to 65% of us are water. We were born in water, well, so we conceived in water, came to birth through water. So it's a connection with the water element in ourselves as well. But some of the things which you might think about today as you are reflecting on the letting go, we will have the chance to light some of these and take them outside to our special pond in a moment. But letting go of things is not always easy. Sometimes we let go of things and then it leaves a hole in our life and we want to go back to that. This is one of the difficult things about letting go. Sometimes just lighting a candle doesn't make something go away from our lives too easily. And there is a sense of letting go of something on a lower level in order to let something on a higher level have the opportunity in our life. And in the trade, this is known as uptrading, where if you are in a situation where you have nothing better, then of course you're going to grasp onto that thing, even if it's not very perfect. But in order to move on to something better, you need to let go of the old thing before you can move on to something better. If you are in a shipwreck, then you will clutch onto anything that floats, right? Flotsam and jetsam. Apparently flotsam is bits of the ship. Jetsam is bits of the cargo. Yeah, apparently there's a legal distinction between these two for those interested. But anything will do if it floats, right? Yeah, if it's not lead weights, that's fine, okay? But if a raft comes along, then you have to let go of the flotsam and jetsam in order to get yourself up on the raft. And rafts are not that great. Even rafts can come apart. But they're still better than flotsam and jetsam because it gets you out of the water. But even on your great raft, if you see a boat coming along, then you'll be better on the boat than on the raft. So you have to let go of the raft in order to get onto the boat. And if you get to dry land, well, you'll be stupid to stay on your boat. So there's a sense of uptrading, being able to let go of one thing in order to latch onto something a little bit more superior, which will lead you onwards in life. And it's with this sort of idea in mind that we let go on the occasion of the Loy Krathong festival. So in a few moments, normally we light our candles halfway through, but apparently the candles don't last that long, not long enough to get them out into the pond anyway, so we're going to light them in just a few moments. And there's enough here, I think, for everybody. And the monks have got a special ones here. But before I finish today, I would just do a little bit of publicity, saying that every Saturday, whether it's a full moon or not, we have our online meditations together throughout Europe at 7, from 7 to 8 on British time, and between 8 and 9 on continental time. Also, for those of you who like meditation and would like to meditate regularly at home, I can recommend what's known as the MindGem app, which you can download for free. And you can actually get tracks of meditation teaching from various monks who you are probably quite familiar with in English, where you can set it for a 20-minute meditation track, and if you want to meditate for half an hour, then there's a timer which will count out the rest of the time for you to sit in silence. So that's a very useful aid to encourage you to meditate on a daily basis at home with the meditation method which you have practiced today. Our next full moon, which comes in December, will be on the 18th of December, again a Saturday. And so it coincides also with our normal transmission of the DMEU meditation on Zoom. But I think we probably will have something here as well. And the theme is family harmony in the holiday season. And without further ado, I think we come to a time where there's opportunity for any questions, feedback, or comments which anyone would like to share at this time. I'll hand back to Natalie in case you would like to host that.
Thank you, Chakalung Visatu. How's everyone? Very relaxing, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, anyone would like to ask anything at all? Or bells? Okay. Yeah.
Eva.
Oh yes, Eva. Yes, Eva.
Sorry, the question was, before your mind gets relocated in your center, where is it? Is that the question? Generally, it is with all the things that you worry about in your life. So by withdrawing them from all those miscellaneous things, then it gets the chance to come back to the center, which is where it is most relaxed. You can compare it to a question like, where is your mobile phone? And your mobile phone is wherever you need it to be during the day. But at night, you need to have it back in a charging cradle. Otherwise, you don't get to use it during the day. So something like that.
Thank you, Eva. Lovely. The mind is everywhere. Yeah. Anybody else? Bob, you okay? You're good. Never question. Yuns. Brilliant. Yeah. So our newcomer, you. Hi. What's your name? Sorry. Beverly. And Phillips. Hi. Hi. Welcome. You've been here before? Oh, okay. Oh, so yeah. That's good. So yeah, something different today.
Yeah, the different bits about to start.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just the monk talking a lot and meditating. But today we've got extra activities. Yes.
We do like talking sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, I believe everyone okay, and we're just gonna start with lighting the flowers. And
so what we're going to do, I think, is there's enough here, one for everyone.
yes.
And we're going to have a little bit of a relocation. So you need to have light your candle even, and find your shoes. And we're going to make our way to the new pond in the meditation garden at the side of the temple. And you can make a wish for the things that you'd like to uptrade, get rid of in part of the process of uptrading. And I do believe it's what's known as an Instagrammable moment. Yes.
So.
But for today, I think we probably finished the formal part here, and we'll see each other by the pond in just a few moments.
Okay. So yeah, I've got some lighter here. If everyone want to come forward and grab your flower, and then we go out. Not flower, you know what I mean. Yeah, flower and shoes. Yeah, and shoes. Yes. It's Bob needs some assistance. Bob, are you okay to manage to walk on the uneven ground? We'll keep an eye on you. Yeah,
Don't forget your shoes and your coat. I think it's going to be really cold out there.
No หลวงพี่เขาไม่ให้ใส่หมวกอ่ะเขาไม่ให้ใส่หมวกอ่ะเดี๋ยวหนูจะต้องถ่ายแล้วเดี๋ยวหลวงพี่ไม่เห็นหลวงพี่แล้วหลวงพี่จะไปซ่อนใช่ไหมไม่ใช่เขาไม่ใส่ผ้าแล้วจุดแล้วเรา
Are we going over here? Part of the map has gone numb already. Oh, we haven't the group photo with
มันก็จะไม่เป็นรูปใช่ไหม
That's the problem with this excitement. Can't hang on to it. Disappointed now, you see. Should have got there in the first place. Oh, thank you. Two? Oh, wow. You've got a hole. Yeah. Too much fun.
Just look at the camera, right? Camera go.
1, 2, 3. Thinking in Spain. All right.
You didn't have to. I don't mind. Okay.
เอาพระอาจารย์ปล่อยให้หลวงพี่นิคณะปล่อยตรงนี้ดีกว่าพระอาจารย์คะปล่อยตรงนี้ค่ะพี่ปล่อยตรงนี้จะได้ไม่มีเชือกใช่
And now open season for everyone else.
That's what I got to go. Really need to. That's my problem.
It actually nearly did.
สวยแต่เมียมเต็มอ่ะงงมากก็เลยไปเอาไหมครบแล้วนะ
Oh, be careful with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ครบแล้วนะเอาลงปล่อยยังใครที่เป็นทำ
Yeah, yeah. They do. Like, Ivan, be careful.
Down to the side and down and then they
พี่ก่อนได้พี่ได้ดีหวาน
So you keep your mind centered. It's like, oh, well. The trouble is,
ให้ปียืนตรงนั้นเยอะๆได้ไหม
พี่นะคะถ้าเขาไปยืนตรงนี้ได้ไหมคะถ่ายรูปอะรูปรวม
เอาลงพี่ไป
video. Video or picture? Not the analyze that actually. The emerald.
Yeah.
He does this whole thing himself.
No, someone wants some
No.
need help. Yeah.
Most of the time he does it himself. Right.
Let's go. Oh, slowly. Slowly. Would you like to come to see your class?
I know. That's like me all day.
ดูถ่ายรูปนี้ให้ได้หน่อยถึงถ่ายหน่อยเธอนะคะ from Pinterest
ว้าวอันนี้ใช่ไหม
ถ้าเป็นภาพเยอะก็โชว์แย้ม
It's okay สาธุ
Could you please go over there?
yes
Yeah, because of language. Would you like me to pick it up?
another wish
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's all.
yeah
Oh, be careful.
wow all of your good wish become true สาธุ Then some people to see the อาจารย์อ้าวจุดเดี๋ยวนะจุดดีตาจุดเลยต้องแจกพร้อมกันเลยป่ะ
Over there on the bench.
อ้าวเขาไม่ไปเหรอน่ารักมั้ยปิดได้ไหมคุณพี่ปิดไฟได้ไหมไฟอันเนี้ยหมดแล้ว The fairy yes you like a fairy ใช่ไหมลูกแอปเปิ้ลว้าวหอบไปหอบมาหอบไปหอบใกล้จะลอยตกลงว่ามีอีกรอบหนึ่งใช่ไหม